Tai Lopez, YouTube's most infamous fake guru, is back, and this time he is allegedly scamming investors out of millions in unpaid investments and making outlandish claims about guaranteed financial returns that just aren't possible. Now, at this time, it's important to keep in mind that these are just allegations and no one has been charged with anything. But after talking to a half dozen investors who all feel Tai scammed them, and the story now being talked about in major news media, I felt it was time to finally reveal what I've learned.
If you're an accredited investor, I have something I think you're going to want to listen to. I consider it big news, but in a sense, it's old news.
In December of 2022, I was approached by an investor in Tai's business who gave me access to a WhatsApp group composed of over 50 investors of Tai's company who all feel scammed and are currently in negotiations to try and recover what's left of their nearly $120 million investment. Tai and the company's co-founders have been ignoring these investors for months, and their company is now on the brink of bankruptcy. The situation has gotten so bad that many of these investors now feel a lawsuit is the only answer they have left to get back the remainder of their money. The investors I talked to were unwilling to do an on-camera interview in fear of repercussions from Tai and his team, but just in the last few days, CoffeeZilla joined the group, and hopefully with his more established name, he can convince many of these investors to publicly speak about his scandal in the future. Now, to fully break down just what is going on, we have to go back to 2019, because that was the year that Tai Lopez co-founded the company Retail E-commerce Ventures with another millionaire named Alex Meyer, who made millions selling his dating company Zoosk a few years prior. Tai and Alex, who both have expertise in running online businesses, formed Rev with the intention of buying bankrupt retail companies and turning them into online e-commerce juggernauts without all the expenses of having physical locations. The idea itself wasn't a bad one, but it never panned out the way they wanted. From 2019 through the entire pandemic, the Rev company bought brands such as Models for $3.6 million, Steinmart for $6 million, Pier 1 Imports for a whopping $20 million, and undisclosed millions for a controlling stake of bodybuilding.com, as well as Radio Shack. As I said before, these companies were all bankrupt or near bankruptcy, and the plan was to turn them into e-commerce giants without retail locations. The most interesting of purchases was the acquisition of Radio Shack, a once massive player in the electronics business that had faded from glory years earlier. Tai and the Rev team decided to try some truly outlandish marketing pitches with the bloated corpse of the once great Radio Shack. Tai turned Radio Shack's official Twitter account into a laughingstock in 2022 when it tweeted such things as, "What do y'all nuts taste like?" and my personal favorite, "If you find a squirter, marry her." Now, all of these outlandish tweets, and there are many of them, were designed to get attention on Radio Shack, which eventually led into the company launching a crypto coin and a crypto exchange. Both of these flopped massively, and Radio Shack now tweets about being bankrupt. None of the companies that Tai and Rev bought were ever able to establish successful online brands like they originally planned. Brands like Models and Pier 1 Imports, which used to carry exclusive merchandise, now have websites that are no better than Alibaba, with cheap knockoff brands and a fraction of what they used to offer. Tai and his team did the opposite of what they told investors they would do, and has led Rev to near bankruptcy. On top of the horrible business management of Tai and the Rev team, there are also allegations that, if proven true, could potentially lead to criminal investigations. The Rev company was bleeding cash in 2022, but instead of circling the wagons and trying to fix the business, Tai and Alex decided to try and bring new investors into their dying brand to keep it alive. As late as September of 2022, Rev was sending out solicitations for mid-size investors with a net worth of over $1 million to participate in a Zoom call where Rev would pitch them on the deal of a lifetime. Once Rev had your contact info, they would send out emails making outlandish claims like, "Did you realize for every $300K invested, we will send you up to $60,000 a year?" On September 12th, they sent out the email stating, "Want to get in on Rev's private deal flow? We already paid out over $25 million to investors." And another email stating, "Get on Tuesday's investor orientation call tomorrow if you want more details on our deals that pay up to 25% a year in monthly payments." Now, that last email they sent out is the most damning. The Tuesday investors call they reference is talking about the company Tuesday Morning, which is a home decor company. Tai and Rev, already bleeding cash in late 2022, conned new investors into keeping Rev afloat and then used the new money to buy a controlling stake of Tuesday Morning in September of 2022. Much like Rev's other purchases, it blew up in their face, and Tuesday Morning continued to suffer until the company declared bankruptcy in February of 2023. 2023. Another amazing business move by Tai Lopez. Millions of investors' money flushed down the toilet by idiotically investing in a dying brand instead of trying to salvage the already 10 plus companies Rev owns that are already on life support. The situation gets much worse than that because the statements they were making about 25% yearly returns are not something that any legit company would ever offer. It reeks of classic MLM marketing and Ponzi schemes such as BitConnect, which offered guaranteed returns by using new investors' money to pay back old investors. These emails undoubtedly need to be looked at by authorities as they are not returns that anyone should be claiming to make to investors. And now that Rev has hired restructuring lawyers and is eyeing a bankruptcy of its own, it's clear it will never be able to deliver on these promises again. Rev and Tai Lopez have continued to ignore investors' pleas to know what happened to their money. Tai, to this day, posts inspirational messages to his social media pages and continues to solicit people to sign up for his many courses and presents himself as the ultimate businessman, despite ruining a $120 million company. Sadly, things get much worse from there, as investors have made multiple claims that they have wired Rev and Tai Lopez money and have been completely ghosted without any response. One investor claims to have wired $500K to Tai before being ghosted, and another investor claimed Rev told him multiple times that his money had been wired to his bank account, yet he never received a payment. Now, these allegations, if proven true, are damning pieces of evidence that Tai and Rev are at the very least not delivering on what they promised, and I'll leave it up to the authorities if they think anything criminal is going on as well. In a story like this, I thought it only fair to reach out to Tai Lopez to get his side of the story, and that's exactly what I did in December of last year when I first heard of this, and I reached out again last week as I was finishing up the video. Tai never made any attempt to respond to me, nor did anyone at the Rev team. At this point, though, with lawyers restructuring the company, it was probably under lawyers' request not to comment about any of this. Finally, I want to end off with a message to Tai Lopez and Alex Meyer, the founders of Rev. I know they will see this since I'm in contact with several investors who will forward it to them. What you did was wrong and potentially illegal. You pitched impossible returns to hundreds of investors and raised over $100 million that they will most likely never see again because of you. Both of you are personally wealthy as you continue to show your lifestyles of flying around the world in private jets to exotic locations. Instead of constantly ignoring the investors you screwed over, do the right thing and pay them back. Even if it comes out of your own pockets, you have the ability to do this and choose not to. Ultimately, this makes you guys look like crooks who swindled people into an impossible pipe dream of a company that is now bankrupt.